Looks like we've got company.
Disturbing my nap, folks. How are you?
How are you?
Well, I'm going to read a little history to you. I think I am. Let's see. Get my spectacles on. You know, Alma, I think I need new glasses because I can't read any of this.
Well, maybe you shouldn't read it upside down, you old goat.
Man, tough crowd. All right, let's see what we have here. The American Civil War started in April 1861 and lasted for 4 years. Florida joined the Confederate cause. In 4 years, Florida sent 11 regiments of infantry, 3 regiments of cavalry, and 6 batteries of artillery, and several smaller companies, including a company of Indians. Most of the soldiers came from North Florida, as that is where the population base was at the time. Not many, but some came from the Caloosahatchee region as well. During the war, cattle owners used whatever they could to round up conquistador cattle and drive them to the Georgia border. Some cattle were shipped to the Bahamas and to Havana by blockade runners that regularly used the Caloosahatchee River. In return, the blockade runners returned with badly needed guns, powder, medical supplies, and other items such as cloth and fish hooks. After 4 years of this dreadful war, the South was all but destroyed. The farms were torn down, the fields were burned, livestock was taken by the Union Army. There was no food for the defeated nation. Then there began a migration of Confederate veterans, war widows with children in wagons, displaced families, and others stripped of their possessions by war and Reconstruction. You know, Alma, you might have a better chance of cooking that fish stew if you lit a fire.
You might have a better chance of lighting a fire if I had that wood I asked you to get.
Now, don't go sassing me. I'm an old Confederate veteran, and I'll collect that firewood my bones tell me I can. Some rode in wagons. Others came on horseback. Many walked. In the dry season, they trudged through heavy sands, and in the rainy season, they traversed flooded forests. They used obliterated Indian trails, and they crossed wide rivers to safety. One by one, as the families arrived, they camped on old Indian clearings or shell mounds along creeks and rivers, for which water was to be their only highway. They erected palm-thatched chickees with dirt floors and temporary shelter. And food, blessed food. The Caloosahatchee region, food awaited in abundance. There were wild cattle and hogs, bear, turkey, deer, quail, ducks, oranges, coconuts, and hearts of palm. Around the shores there were oysters, turtles, and fish that were caught in traps of palm fiber. Because they had known hunger, these refugees planted larger gardens than they needed so that visitors were always welcome. The poorest would hospitably stir up the fire and share with a stranger whatever they had on hand, whether it be meat, pork, game, cornbread, homemade jelly, or wild honey.
Now, Samuel, how am I supposed to stir up some fish stew for these guests if I don't have any firewood?
All right, glory be, you're a pest. Let me finish reading to these fine folks. The best of these post-war Southerners were deeply religious, possessing ideals of honor and integrity. They admired George Washington, Robert E. Lee, of all others, except for God, and they became leaders of their people. The worst of them grew up illiterate, because there was no time for learning. And as they grew old and bitter, they became outlaws, rustlers, and thieves. Young Confederate veterans, however, worked with wild cattle. They built Sharpies, which had centerboards that they could lift up so they could sail over bars and reefs, and they became fishermen. There were those who hunted for hides, furs, skins, and feathers, and some of the poorest squatted on any land that suited them. But as the years moved on, people started to settle down. They began looking for a place of their own. Some turned their eyes on a long and narrow island with a beautiful beach and a forest of pines, oaks, and mahogany trees. The early settlers knew the long island as Estero, which is Spanish for shipyard. An early mapmaker didn't know how to spell the Spanish word, so he spelled it as best he could, and it became Estero.
All right, now go get me some firewood.
I need to rest these weary bones. Emma, why don't you go get that firewood?
You ate my Cheerios, I'm sorry.
Nothing but sass. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. That was great.